Thanks for tuning in live, Proline TV, Our Lads Football Network. We're talking about the NFC South and the fourth of four teams that we are previewing for the season, the New Orleans Saints. And that might actually be the way the standings will look at the end of the season. But I don't know. Maybe Darrion thinks differently. Darrion Gray is our special guest, and he's with Who Dat Dish at whodatdish.com. It's a fan-sided website covering the New Orleans Saints. Site expert Darrion Gray. Thanks for taking the time to join us here today, Darrion.
No, I appreciate it, Greg. Thanks for having me.
All right. So how long have you been following the Saints? Are you a fan?
I've been following the Saints since I was a little kid. Like, this is my fan. This is now my profession, but I started off as a fan. And, you know, one of my first memories is literally watching the Saints. So how long I've been following them since I can remember. And most people say that as a cliche, but I mean that literally.
When was that? What time period?
So
don't tell me it was when they had the bags on their head.
Well, you know, I'm a little younger than that, so
okay.
I don't know anything about the bag
era.
To me, I failed that part of history. I don't know.
Sean Payton?
Yeah, no. My first memory would be, and it's very specific, is when Joe Horn caught that touchdown pass on Monday Night Football versus the Giants, and he took the cell phone out. That is probably one of my first, if not my first memory. Like, that is vivid to me because I remember calling my dad, who was he's in the military. He was in the military, so I called him and I said, "Oh man, did you see it?" Whatever, you know, you say at that age. But
sure.
That was huge, and I'm Saints fan. Is in my blood, so I just stayed with it.
That means you're from the area.
My dad is from Louisiana. I was born out there, but I was raised in Texas.
Okay.
So I say I'm from Louisiana. I used to say I was from Louisiana, but now I'm from Texas.
So how did you become a Saints fan then? Because of your dad?
Yeah. You know how that goes when you're young. You either adopt your family team, or you just are like a free agent. You just go pick something. But me, I just rolled with it. And I mean, half my family stays in Louisiana. We go to Louisiana every year. So it wasn't. I didn't really have a choice. And then once I did have a choice, I was so ingrained in it, I still didn't have a choice.
Well, you had the opportunity to see a Super Bowl. So that was nice. And the Saints have a new regime. It's the Kellen Moore regime.
Yes.
And as I said, and as kind of alluded to, there's I think if there were predictions right now on which team would end up with the first pick, the Saints would be right up there. I'm not sure who would be next to them, to tell you the truth. Maybe the Browns. I don't know.
I think the Titans should be up there too.
Titans possibility, yes. I guess all depends on Cam Ward and how quickly he can develop this season. So bottom line is, though, the fans realize, right, that this is a complete rebuild, and this is the first step.
I think they realize it. I don't know how accepting they are of it right now, but I think that this is going to be something that you end up seeing going throughout the year. We're not necessarily checking the wins and losses as much because this is a building process, and you're also trying to see if you have your quarterback of the future. Now, if you get a lot of wins, you have your quarterback of the future, but it's going to be a little bit more of reading into it. Does Spencer Rattler look good enough to keep that spot, not into 2026, but just throughout 2025? Because he still has Tyler Shuck breathing down his shoulder. Yeah. So does Shuck get into there? And then if he does get into there, does he perform well enough to keep the Saints away from drafting a 2026 quarterback? So I don't know if the Saints are going to be overly successful. I don't even know if wins and losses are going to be the thing I'm looking for the most, mostly because I don't think it's going to be a lot of wins. I'm looking at the quarterbacks and seeing how they perform. So I know, all right, when April rolls around, am I looking at guys like Sellers, guys like Nussmeier, guys like Klubnik, guys like Aller, right? These are conversations that we'll be having throughout the entirety of the season, so we know what to expect when April rolls around.
Yeah, that's pretty much what that's it in a nutshell. It's if you can get like half the season with Rattler and or half the season with Shuck, and hopefully one of them develops, or what you'd really prefer, of course, is just one of them to take the bull by the horns and become that guy. But chances are that's not likely going to happen, but you never know. Stranger things have happened, which is why I'm sure they made the pick for Shuck. It's just let's give him a chance and see if we can go down that road. And like you said, avoid having to give up, the potentially the top pick of the draft next year, or one of the top 5 picks of the draft, and go from there. Are you surprised that Shuck, when the whole process began in training camp, did most fans believe Shuck was going to win the job?
I think a lot of us did. I think that I would say the overwhelming majority did because it felt like he was positioned to be the guy. I think
Mhm.
that the Saints have such a smart group of fans, right? And I don't want to speak for everybody. I'll speak for my fan base. I think that the Saints have such a smart group of fans in the sense that depending on how you feel about Rattler or Shuck, that was kind of thrown out of the window. Many people viewed it as, look, we may like Rattler, but the team just picked Shuck. So if it's close, it's going to go to Shuck. And it didn't turn out that way. It was a very close battle. I would say that through everything that was reported in training camp, in addition to the preseason, it seemed like Rattler was a little bit ahead, but I would have thought a little bit ahead would have resulted in Shuck still getting it because a lot of times when you have that young guy and you want to get him in there early, you want to get him into the game early, you want to play him early. There's a certain level of favoritism with being picked up by the current coaching staff
Yeah,
as
that's right.
opposed to the prior one. So
Yep.
you would have thought it would have been Shuck. The fact that they're rolling with Rattler tells me a lot. And I'm going to choose to look at it as a good thing about Rattler and not a negative thing about Shuck. But I'm excited. I didn't think that, me personally, I didn't ask on this far back, but I didn't think that they should have drafted a quarterback. I personally felt like if you weren't going to get a guy in the first round, then you should have just rolled with Rattler, seeing what he had throughout 2025, crash and burn, or fly high with him and go get somebody in 2026 if he didn't work out. That's how I approached it, but they obviously did something different. And then once they do something different, then there's a different talking point.
Yeah, because I'm assuming again that's the reason why most fans thought it was going to be Shuck for that exact reason. Because, well, if Rattler won the job, then why did you draft Shuck? Yeah, so
That's tough. Greg, like that's the part that I've actually warred with over the last week and a half. I really warred with the idea of trying to find the best quarterback for 2025, which, okay, you draft a quarterback, you have the one that's there, and they compete, versus just saying, we're just going to roll with him. And I think it was the decision that looks bad because of the results so far, right? If Shuck comes in for 10 games in his rookie season, I don't think we're having the same conversation.
Yeah.
But it's it's a decision that looks bad now. But I don't know. I go back and forth. If you ask me tomorrow, I'll say I understand. If you ask me the day after, I may not understand. So,
well, like you said, I think it's early because if Shuck does come in within the next few weeks, then we're not really having that conversation. Then maybe they just wanted to give him a little bit more time.
exactly.
But that's still the guy they want to give the chance that the majority of the season snaps to. But just because Rattler's starting week 1 doesn't mean he's going to be starting week 2 or 3. So, yeah.
And I treat Tyler Shuck like a second-round quarterback. I know that sounds crazy because he is a second-round quarterback, but I don't think that he gets treated that way. I think he gets treated as a guy who is a first-round pick. I know he was top 50, so he's close, but I still treat him like a second-rounder. And when I say that, what are the expectations for second-round quarterbacks? Right? Like if we're really being honest, you can say that there's a few who have succeeded, but run them down. Jalen Hurts, they had Carson Wentz. They did not plan on Jalen Hurts coming to take the reign. They wanted Carson Wentz to return from injury to his almost MVP form. You look at Dak Prescott, Tony Romo wasn't supposed to break his back. You look at Russell Wilson, it's not like Matt Flynn, who they just paid, was supposed to come in and get beat out by Russell Wilson. When you look at these quarterbacks who have succeeded, Kirk Cousins wasn't even the first quarterback drafted by Washington in his own draft class. Start going through these quarterbacks who were drafted in the second round or later. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
You start going through them, no one expected these guys to come in and be this super talented or even be a starting quarterback immediately. But because Tyler Shuck is in a different situation, I think that the expectations placed upon him have been different. But for me, I'm treating him just like all those other guys who I'm not banking on him to be ready right now. Matter of fact, I'm not banking on him to be ready ever. If it comes to 2026 and the Saints have to draft another quarterback, I'm not looking at the Tyler Shuck pick like, man, what a waste. No, I don't know how you made that decision. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and also we don't even know because this is even though the Saints have had I mean, how long has Jeff Ireland been there?
Ireland's been there. I think he was there in the 2017 draft. I think that was his first draft. I think.
Okay.
Oh, no. I think he arrived right before the 2016 draft.
Okay.
Something like that. It's right in that range. 15 to 17 was his first year.
Yeah.
One of those.
So it's one of those things that with Kellen Moore here, it is one of those things where, maybe he's a guy, and there are guys like this, coaches like this, that are like, hey, I'd like to draft a quarterback every year if I get the chance until we find our quarterback. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, but overall, the Saints, whether they have a good quarterback or not, it's also about the rest of the team. And I think that's what generally people are looking at when they're grading the Saints. So let's take a look at the Arled's depth chart for the Saints. We'll start on offense. And what about the Saints offense do you think fans should be the most excited about, the most comfortable with?
Those two different questions. I have two different answers.
Okay.
Right? I think you should be most excited about Kendre Miller. I think that if Kendre Miller, yes, I think Kendre Miller has the opportunity to be such a dynamic weapon and to be a guy who is really a force multiplier. Wow. Because he's not going to be your number one running back. That's Alvin Kamara. But I also think that Kendre has the ability to open up Alvin to be even better. I think he has the ability to keep Alvin fresher, which is going to hopefully have more yards per carry. I think he opens up Alvin to be a more versatile wide receiver or a more versatile receiver, whether that's in the slot or out wide. I think he makes a more versatile Alvin, and a more versatile Alvin makes for a better Saints offense. He is a safety valve who you can get the ball in short yardage behind the line of scrimmage, get him in space. He still has great elusiveness. He's still a guy who forces a lot of missed tackles. And Kendre Miller has those qualities as well. So it's not as if you're going to be losing a quality running back. Yes, he might not be Alvin's standard yet, but I think that he's extremely talented. So that's what you should be excited about. It's just the fact that he has injury history that you can't be comfortable. When it comes to what you should feel the most comfortable about, I would say that that's a difficult one to answer because there's a lot of question marks. But if Eric McCoy doesn't have a season-long injury like he did, that's one of the best, if not the best player on this offense. I think Taliesin Fuanga is a really talented player going to his natural position of right tackle. Those are the guys that make me feel the most comfortable next to Alvin Kamara, obviously. That little trio, center, right tackle to running back, that is my triangle of comfort.
Okay. And then the concern along the offensive line would be?
It would be the guards. It would be the guards. I think that obviously Kelvin Banks is a rookie.
Sure.
So the natural apprehension that may come with playing.
What have you heard and seen so far from him?
Greatness, right? Like Teron Armstead just said that he thinks that Banks and Fuanga can be the next Ramczyk and Armstead, right? And that's high praise. Though that was one of, if not the best offensive tackle duo when they were together and healthy. So if Banks and Fuanga can be that, you're looking at a high ceiling. The problem is Trevor Penning on the inside is moving to his third position in 3 years. And though people say that it's been going well, and it went really well for Mekhi Becton in this same offense last year, you still got to see it happen. And he's got to get on the field because he's hurt right now. Right, he's hurt right now. And then Cesar Ruiz, I just don't think has been consistent. He hasn't lived up to the first round billing. I think that if you can get good play out of those guards, you're looking at a really good offensive line. But the question is, can you get good play out of those guards?
At wideout, Olave has had, it seems like, If Olave gets good quarterback play, he should be fine. I mean, I don't know whether or not. I mean, is his? I kind of get some conflicting news from following him. I've drafted him even in my fantasy league. What was it? I think it was 2 years ago, and he gets off to a pretty slow start. And then things go well. And I heard also there was a little off the field stuff that was there. I don't know if he was. I mean, what kind of a teammate is Chris Olave? Let's just start there. Is Chris Olave is he a good teammate? Is he somebody that you can rely on? Is he somebody that could be a cornerstone of this franchise or not?
By all intents and purposes, yes. And I think I know what you're talking about. I think that was probably 2 years ago in the first year of the Derek Carr era.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a little rough. And honestly, that to me we can talk about how Olave reacted. I think in general, we expect too many athletes to be robots.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems when we talk about athletes. Any sort of emotion that we feel like, hey, you're not being a team player or you're upset. They're humans. They get upset. But I think the real problem in that situation was poor leadership on Derek Carr and poor leadership on Dennis Allen. Those two catalysts are gone, right? And I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but what you saw with some of the poor body language started with a play by Derek Carr where he used publicly Chris Olave as a scapegoat, and he ended up getting outed that's what happened, and Dennis Allen backed him. So basically they both threw Olave under the bus, and then it later came out it was actually Carr's fault. So when it comes to his body language, I think that was just that moment. He's had a really good body language since. The only concern is injuries. Gosh, are you tired of hearing me saying the concern is injuries with the Saints? Because I surely am, right? And we'll get to the defense eventually, and I'll stop saying these things. But on offense, that was the problem in 2024. Almost everybody got hurt. Almost everybody except for the right tackle, the left tackle. That's it. Alvin got hurt. Starting quarterback gets hurt. Both your two top wide receivers go down, and you don't have any depth behind them at that moment. They did build that this year. Your entire interior offensive line goes down with injury for multiple weeks. The only healthy players on that offense last year were Taliesin Fuanga at left tackle and Trevor Penning at right tackle. And you cannot win in the NFL with an offense like that. You can't. It just doesn't work. So I'm just hoping for better health.
Long term, you got Olave and Shaheed. So that's nice. That's a good start. And they did trade for Vele. So is he maybe, do you think he could be part of the long-term Saints as far as that unit is concerned? Of course, they also added Trey Palmer, so he's going to get a chance. So what do you think about some of the young receivers there?
I think that 100% Vele is going to be a guy who is a factor for a few years. He comes over still on a rookie contract. He comes over with 3 years left. So you're looking at a guy who is a bigger framed wide receiver that instantly gives him a role within this Saints offense. It's something that the other guys don't provide. Olave, not a big body. Shaheed, not a big body. Brandon Cooks, not a big body. Trey Palmer, not a big body. Neither is Mason Tipton, right? And these are all talented players. They're very fast. They're very much so speedsters, but they're not big frame, giving me a slant on 3rd and 3 guys. They are, especially Olave, more, I'm going to run this route. We're going to run by you. We're going to give you big plays. But if we're talking about in the red zone, Vele does a really good job with the scramble drill too. That's not going to be something that everybody talks about, but he does a really good job in his rookie year. At least he did. But I think that he makes this a more complete wide receiving core, and with him already on the contract for 2 seasons after 2025, it just makes sense that he sticks around for a while.
Who do you have more faith in, Palmer or Tipton?
That's a good question.
Is Tipton more than just a receiver, or is he special teams as well?
He's a receiver. I want to say Palmer because I think that he has some return capabilities, even though they don't seem to be about to use him that way.
Okay.
But I do think he has that. That's tough. That's a tough question. They're about even. But if they start using Palmer in the special teams, that'll give him the edge.
Who, as far as the if there are injuries again along the offensive line, out of the and there are 2 CFAs, one imported, but out of those CFAs, out of those veterans, is there a lineman that you think that you have the most confidence in, that the team has the most confidence in?
You said do you say as far as depth goes?
As depth on the offensive line, which one of those backup linemen?
Dylan Radins. And Dylan Radins is a former starter in the league. There's a chance that he may start this week. As we're talking, I think they'll probably be releasing the injury report right now. So, I don't know if what happened with Trevor Penning as we're talking. He could be a full participant, and now that doesn't matter. But if he is still injured, there's a chance that Dylan Radins starts. I think that if either Cesar Ruiz or Trevor Penning goes out at guard, you'll see Dylan Radins step in. He is clearly the top backup for the Saints. And I'm going to try to check if they did that injury report while we're talking. Okay, well, at least that's good then, considering if that's the weak area, at least the best backup area fits that role. So that's good. It could be worse.
What do you know about Simpkins and Truss? Because Truss, I like him as a CFA. I really feel like he's got a potential to be around a while. Doesn't have to be a starter, but maybe a good backup. And but Simpkins, I don't know much about. So what have you found out about both of those two young players?
First off, Penning was not seen at practice. So
Okay.
just as an update, I like Simpkins a lot. I think that he was the star of the preseason, him and Mason Tipton, right? I think that when you look at what Simpkins did stepping in at center, I know he's listed as a guard now, so it's going to take a while if he gets on the field, but I thought he looked really good. I think he's a guy who you keep on your roster for a little bit, and his 2025 projection is probably very limited, but his 2026, he could be a guy who steps up. He could be a guy who, depending on how you feel, competes for a job in 2026. He could be a guy who steps into a backup role in 2026, but I'm very high on Simpkins. He came from North Carolina Central, where he played center for a long time. Then he went to South Carolina, where he played guard. And then he came to New Orleans, played guard, switched over to center, and now they're putting him back at guard. So that positional versatility is always going to be something that's valuable. And I think is going to really lend itself to him seeing a spot with the Saints for a while as one of those swing guys.
Okay. As far as the other rookies, Veo, big guy, only 2 tight ends. That's a little strange. And Devin Neal, I haven't heard a lot of positive things from Neal. I don't know if he got banged up or what. Yeah. But Neal's a good player. Neal's a good prospect. So
yeah, he missed all the preseason. He missed all the preseason with an injury until week 3, until the final game. And he was fantastic. And he was the biggest winner of that third game because he was in a situation where he had to compete against a couple of veterans, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, but mostly Clyde. And when Neal stepped into the game, it looked different. It was clear who the Saints' third running back should be.
Okay.
He didn't have much time with pads because he got hurt early. He didn't have any preseason games until the final one. He only had one opportunity, and he did it. And he made the most of it. So I think that's the reason you haven't heard much about him, because he just wasn't out there. But when he did get out there, right before the last opportunity, he did what he needed to.
Good for him. And anything out of Mataveo?
That was a surprise. That may be the biggest surprise on the roster. And I don't mean that in a way to say that he was bad, but it's only 2 tight ends.
Yes.
And if there was only going to be 2 tight ends, didn't expect it to be Johnson and Mataveo.
That means he's going to play a lot. Yeah.
He will have to. I thought it'd be Johnson and Stoll. And then if it was 3 tight ends, I thought it'd been, Jack Stoll. I thought it'd been Johnson, Stoll, and then Trayton Welch, who I thought was the most impressive young tight end in the receiving game in the preseason. So keeping Mataveo, it said a lot. That was a stunner. But yeah, he's going to see the field because there's only 2 of them. And I think the Saints are going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Velus Jones, when did he make the transition to running back, and has that been a success because he made the team?
Yeah, it's going well. He's a really dynamic returner, and I think that's what you're going to see him used at the most. We'll see how, everybody isn't active on game day, right? So we'll see if a guy like Devin Neal ends up being inactive and you keep a guy on like Jones on the active roster, and then he ends up getting some snaps at running back. But for the most part, I expect him to be a return specialist. But he's looked good. He's explosive. He's fast.
Yeah.
He has more jets than I'd probably say anybody else at the position. So I'm excited to see what he can do if he touches the ball. I expect him to get a couple of touches during the game.
Yeah, why not? Again, he's explosive. So the more touches you give explosive players, the better chance you have for explosive plays. Okay, taking a look at the defense. So Demario Davis just keeps chugging along. That's good to see. What else? Same question, I guess, with the defense. And what's exciting about the Saints defense?
What's exciting is the addition of Brandon Staley at defensive coordinator, and I think is going to unlock those edge rushers. Chase Young didn't have a lot of sacks, and because Chase Young's career to this point has been relatively disappointing, we're going to be honest about it, right? It's been relatively disappointing. You don't really get the benefit of the doubt. So when I tell you that he had a lot of pressures, you may still not care. However, I feel like it's responsible of me to say he did have a lot of pressures. So when it comes to 2025, I'm looking for him to turn more of those pressures into sacks. That is mandatory. There's only so many times that you can have, oh, I'm a high pressure guy, but I'm not a high sack guy. Yeah, you're impacting the game, but there's also a cap on your impact. I think that having Brandon Staley will allow both Young and Carl Granderson to A, have slimmed down over the offseason, and then B, just use their athleticism. They're going to be wider. I think it's going to help a lot of people on that front line, but specifically them getting to the quarterback, using more speed as opposed to being asked to use power so often. So that's what you should be most excited about, because A, I think it has a chance to change, and B, it really needs to change if the Saints are going to have a successful defense.
Give me a potential breakout player or two on defense.
Kool-Aid McKinstry at cornerback is a breakout contender. He's going to step into a bigger role. I think that he started to bubble as a rookie. You saw him perform a lot better. I thought he played well against the Cowboys in the first time he really saw a lot of action, but he began to be more consistent. I thought he had a really good performance against Mike Evans towards the end of the season. So I think that going into year 2, Kool-Aid McKinstry is a guy who could take a step up. He could become a number 1 corner, and that is my breakout candidate on the defense. I could give you somebody else, but I don't think that there's anybody else who is close enough for consideration. It's clearly his award to me if we're talking about the defense.
Okay. So what's the biggest weakness? What are you worried about the most on defense?
The biggest weakness, unfortunately, is still corner, because though I feel like he's a breakout candidate, you still have to prove it. I don't think that there isn't as much veteran presence. So like the safeties have been really good in training camp. Justin Reed, Julian Blackmon, you trust that. Demario Davis, arguably the best player on the team, sitting there in the middle unit. You're looking at that front line. I think the addition of Godchaux is a big deal in that interior defensive line. And I've already talked about the edge guys. So as you go through them, they all have older players. They all have guys like Brian Brzee, who's already taken that step forward with 7.5 sacks in 2024. Meanwhile, you have the cornerbacks who Kool-Aid is trying to step into a bigger role. On that second cornerback spot, if we're talking about what you're going to see most frequently, not in base 3-4 where Alontae Taylor's on the outside, but in nickel defense where Alontae is on the slot, you're probably going to see Isaac Yiadom. And I just think there's question marks. I think there's question marks around Alontae, to be honest. So it's just too many questions on that secondary. I feel like they have a high ceiling. They have a chance to be really good. But if you're asking who I'm asking the most questions about, it's them. Okay.
What about the rookies on defense? I see it looks like 4 of them are and when you're drafting guys 3rd, 4th round, they should contribute early in their careers. And is that what we're going to see? And which one of these rookies do you think is ahead of the others?
I think the only rookie, health permitting, the only rookie you really see a lot of is Vernon Broughton, because you look at cornerback, I think that Quincy Riley is going to, or he already is behind, Isaac Yiadom. So if Isaac doesn't get hurt, he probably stays. You're looking at Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman, I think, is going to be a really good player in the future. I just think this year you have 2 ingrained starters at a linebacker.
Sure.
Where you have you have Demario Davis and you have Pete Werner. So I don't know. You know, I think he gets in there, he plays a little bit, but I'll tell you the defensive rookie I'm the most excited about. And I think he should get a chance this year, but he also is in a stacked position, and that's Jonas Sanker. Jonas Sanker is such a physical player. I think he is an instinctive player, and he's a true playmaker, where he had that interception at the end of the Jaguars game that I'm sure everybody has seen by this point, where did he go out with 1 second? Yes or no? And then it's a tie because it's preseason. Who cares? But I thought that he had plays on the ball. He had plays where he ran through blockers to make the tackle. There was literally a play where he tackled 2 people, and it was extremely impressive. And it's not as if these are aberrations. This is who Jonas Sanker is. I was extremely excited about the pick. Then you get Julian Blackmon, and it's like, okay, maybe you don't see Sanker immediately, but I think he has so many avenues to the field. It's going to be impossible to keep him off this year. And honestly, he could be a safety for you moving forward. He could possibly play in a slot for you moving forward. It's just a question of where the vacancy is going to arise, because I don't think you're going to be able to keep him off the field much longer than this year.
Well, you would also think by midseason, if the team is just not looking good and it's definitely they're not in contention, it's not going to happen, then you would guess a lot of these young players should be given a chance of more playing time. Are there any players offensively or defensively? Most of them look like to be on defense, actually, guys that could be under the radar type players. But then again, they could be there because it's not a very deep roster. So are there any players that fans outside of New Orleans should keep an eye on that maybe in the next year or two they could make something of themselves?
Next year or two, I'm glad you said that. This rookie class is really good. Let me say, I think that this rookie class is really good. The focus is going to be on Tyler Shuck, and he didn't win the quarterback battle, so everybody's going to laugh at the class. But I think that this rookie class of 2025 for the Saints is really good. You may have your future left tackle in Kelvin Banks. I think if you're talking about guys to make noise in a year or two, which I was glad you made that time frame for me, I think Danny Stutzman sees the field in a year or two. I really do. Whether that's because Demario Davis decided to retire or if that's because he's just outplaying Pete Werner, right? I think you can improve upon Pete Werner, and I think Danny Stutzman has the ability to do it. Okay. Jonas Banker, like I just mentioned, he's going to be a guy who is going to see the field. I think he's a starter by year 2, maybe year 3, right? Just depends on how things go, excuse me. Devin Neal is one of those guys I think can be a part of the future running back stable. I think this is a very talented draft class. Quincy Riley, I have question marks about, only because as a 4th rounder, it wouldn't shock me if, they draft a cornerback in the 2nd round next year or the 1st round next year, and now all of a sudden he doesn't even get that chance to step out there. But I think he's talented too. And if he sees the field, I think he can be the next Paulson Adebo, and not just because they wear the same number. They have a lot of the same characteristics where they're ball hawks. They know how to get to the ball. This is a really good draft class. I like it.
Now, of course, Mickey's been here and in charge, and has he really been the guy that even when Ireland came on, and he's been there, I think he's the longest tenure GM in the NFL. So is he really the one that's still making all the decisions, all the final decisions? If you're going to give if you're going to give credit to the draft class, it should go to Loomis first, then Ireland, or would that not be the case?
I don't think so. I don't think
Ireland is the one that gets most of the. Okay.
I probably would have given it to Sean, to be clear. Sean Payton. I would have given it to him when he was here.
Okay.
I think that we'll see how things go moving forward. I think that obviously Loomis is the guy who, if anyone has veto power, someone's going to step up.
Sure.
Loomis can do those things, and you've heard whispers that he's done it. But no, I don't think that. It's funny because you hear the whispers. It tends to be that they didn't want to do this. He did. He got his way, and it didn't work out. That's why I'm laughing. But no, I think that Ireland is the guy overall.
And out of these players, Boyd, Stalbert, Ford, Wright, Howden, Amadi, any of them have a future?
Boyd, I like a lot. I think Boyd is a nose tackle. Ain't nobody going to talk about a nose tackle. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. But I think Christian Boyd is a really good player. He has a high potential. He's going to be a part of that rotation. I can't remember everybody that you said.
Wright, Razon Wright, Jordan Howden, Isaiah Stalbert, Jalen Ford.
Yeah, I think that most of those guys are buried.
Okay.
In the roster, unfortunately, I think that you can see some special teams out of them, but I think that Boyd is going to be right after Devon Gotcha in the rotation on the interior defensive line. And if Alontae Taylor misses time, Ugo Amadi is the most likely guy to fill in at slot. But guys like Rajon Wright, you need too many people to go down. Stalbert, Ford, you need about 2 linebackers to go down before you see one of them. And I think that's and Howden, you're going to need 2 safeties to go down before you see him. Most likely. I think Sanker's probably going to step into that role before Howden does. So it's too many guys in front of them. But Christian Boyd, Ugo Amadi, I think those are two guys who you could see them in 2025.
Okay. Anybody who's on injured reserve, any key players that the team really needs to get back?
Taysom, Taysom Hill. You need that guy. I don't know when he gets back. If he gets back, those injuries are tricky. People recover faster from ACLs nowadays than they used to, but you never want to bank on it. Foster Morrow, he's at tight end. You need tight ends. Taysom, Foster. Those are your tight ends.
Yeah.
You only have two right now, and you need more bodies at the position. It doesn't seem like they're interested in getting them. So maybe that means that Foster's coming back sooner than we think.
Okay.
But those are the IR guys that you need, or I think they're actually on the PUP, but still, those are the guys you need back.
And how about the practice squad? Any of these players? I know you picked up Tommy Millott. I like Diggs coming out of Syracuse. Maybe he didn't make enough of an impression in camp, but I still think he's somebody that has got good tools. Any of these players in the practice squad that you think still could have a future with the team?
Jack Stoll. I'm still shocked that he's not on the roster. He's a blocking tight end, and the Saints plan to run the football. That really surprises me. I don't know why he's on the practice squad, not on the active roster. Like I said, if it was two guys, I would have kept him instead of Matavale. But
is he one? So he's a vested veteran.
Yeah.
So he'll probably, maybe that's why. You probably see him on game days.
I think he will. And then Diggs. I like Diggs a lot. I think that he was in a tight competition with Chris Rumpf, and Rumpf ended up beating him out for that last spot in the room.
Okay.
But I think that Diggs showed a lot. I think he still needs to work a little bit. He still needs to refine some things. He's a 7th round pick. See him in 2026 in training camp. And we might be having a different conversation after a year of refinement on the NFL level.
Saints are a 6.5-point dog opening game at home against Arizona. What do you think about the game itself? Tough opponent. Arizona is a perennial. People are talking about them as a potential playoff team. So, what do you think about the matchup? And what should the fans be looking forward to on opening day? Because the Saints, I'm pretty sure when I was doing my research, I could have sworn the Saints have got a nice little run going, don't they? As far as opening day wins.
Yeah. We've been running them for about a half decade.
Six straight. There you go. Half a decade, 6 straight openers.
Mm-hmm.
So they've won. The only time they were a dog during that stretch, because they were favored in 5 of them, they beat the Packers 38-3 as a dog.
I remember that. No one believed in the Saints that week. It feels similar here. When it comes to Arizona, what Kyler Murray are we getting? I think that Kyler Murray throughout his career has been a tale of two halves. Yeah. And it used to be, I think that he started slow and then got hot. No, I think he used to start hot and then get slow. And I think last year he started slow and got high. It's one of them where it's just he doesn't know which way he wants to start, but he's going to play one half of the year one way, one half the other way. So what Kyler Murray are we getting? That changes a lot. If we get the slow Kyler Murray, all right, different conversation. We get the good Kyler Murray, it might be an easy win for the Cardinals. But all in all, I think that this team is going to test some of the biggest improvements for the Saints, which are all in that defensive trenches, where you're looking at James Conner. We just bolstered the run defense. Now you're going to get a guy who's explosive. You're going to get a guy who's going to get the ball a lot. They're going to run the football. We're talking about Chase Young and his ability to finish. Well, Kyler Murray is going to test your ability to finish.
True.
We're talking about left tackle, Kelvin Banks Jr. Josh Sweat is going to rush in front of him probably every single snap. There are games where Sweat doesn't move to the other side, but there's not a single game where he takes more snaps in front of the right tackle than the left tackle in 2024. So you're going to see that matchup a lot. These are some of the biggest improvements. All right. How are you going to show up? Because these are teams that are going to test where you felt like you bolstered your squad the most. So that's what I'm most interested to see. And I think that's what you should be looking out for. And as a part of the broadcast copy, you can always see the trenches. It's not like cornerbacks where you have to wait till the ball's thrown their way. I hate that. People be sitting here talking about cornerback this, cornerback that. You didn't even see them for like 85% of the game, So, but in the trenches, you can watch those guys. You can watch those guys every time. You don't have to be like, oh man, what did Kool-Aid do against Marvin Harrison Jr.? You don't have to do that. Oh man, Olave was open. They just didn't throw it to him. You can really watch these tackles against these ends.
Yeah, that's great.
Watch these interior linemen versus their defensive tackles. You can watch the run game. So this should be a really fun matchup for people who are watching at home.
Do you have a prediction yet? Have you put a record prediction for the website yet?
Got 5-12.
5-12.
5-12. I think that there's a handful of games that they could win. I'm not saying they win all of those games. I know I say handful and then 5, but I think there's probably like 3 to 4 games outside of conference play. I mean, outside of divisional play that they could win. And I think they'll get some of them. I think they'll drop some of them. Like they haven't earned the benefit of the doubt to say, oh, well, they're playing another bad team. Of course they're going to win. No, they might lose one of those.
Yeah, that's
true.
Win
one of those. So yeah. I'm going to go with splitting in the division. I think it's going 3-3 amongst NFC South teams. And I think that you'll win 2, give room for an extra one. But I think you're going to win about 2 games outside of the conference. It's just, I'm not super high on the Saints right now, but I think it'll be a fun season, even if it's not a successful one.
Well, hopefully, again, as we said, they're very open. The quarterback situation can make things interesting and keep the fan base, excited about maybe the future, whether they use that top pick next year on a quarterback or not. The Saints win total, by the way, is 4.5 minus 135, 5.5 plus 145. So you're right there in the middle at 5-12. So according to Darrion, he would recommend that you go with the 4.5 and don't go crazy with the 5.5. So anyway, Darrion, I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. And I'm sure there's a lot to talk about with the Saints in the next couple of years. It looks like they might have the right coaching staff in there, and it's just a matter of time and building these guys up. So I look forward to, calling on you whenever you're available. And maybe we can talk about the Saints during the season as well.
I look forward to it. Let's do it.
Thanks, Darrion. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out in just a few minutes when we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals with John Sheeran. So again, thanks to Darrion Gray for joining us. We got links in the description where you can follow Darrion either on social media or go directly to the whodatdish.com website. And we'll see everybody again here real